As soon as you step into the motorhome, you're going to see a bunch of switches that are located right inside the step well, and I want to talk to you a little bit about those. The first one you're going to see is our battery disconnect switch. All right, now that's an important one because that pretty much controls power in, power out on this entire unit. Now, you have a couple options. You have use or you have store. All right, use is where you're going to want to be 90% of the time, because use is what you're going to do when you're using the coach, but you'll have to also have it in use mode whenever you want to charge the coach, you want to charge the batteries up. When you have it in the store position, you pretty much turn everything off and nothing's happening, nothing's charging, or so on. A lot of people get confused because they think when they take a coach and they plug it in and they want to stop using it for the night, they push the store button. Well, unfortunately, you're not putting any power through that converter that we've talked about, and you're not charging your battery. So make sure you're in the use position whenever you're plugged into power or whenever you want power inside of the motorhome. The second thing is you're going to have your awning button, which we've looked at before, but this simply has awning in, awning out, or in some cases it will say extend or retract. Push the button, hold it down until the awning goes out, hold the button down again the opposite direction until the awning comes back in. Next, you're going to have your step button. An annoying thing that some people don't like is that when you open the door and close the door after you've parked the coach, you don't want your electric step to go in and out every time you go in and out of the coach. This way you can turn the step off, and as long as you don't have the keys in the ignition with the engine started, now as you open and close the door, your step will remain in the camp position so it's not going in and out using any kind of battery or electricity, or just being annoying where you kind of step off the first one and don't quite hit the entire step. If you put your keys in the ignition and start the engine, that will override this to make sure that you don't drive away with your step in the out position, and it'll move the step in and out with the opening and closing of your entry door. Working our way up here, you can see 3 switches here. In some cases you'll have 3 or 2. Here you're actually going to have some different light controls. The one that I've got on the end here, that actually is going to turn on my LED light strip that's located up in my awning. I've got the middle switch, which controls a patio light, which is located right here on the sidewall just outside of the entry door. And then lastly here, this first switch is going to be so when you walk into the coach and it's nighttime out, you can actually just push the switch and turn on all your ceiling lights. It's a very convenient feature that lets everything be lit up before you actually have to walk into your motorhome. Let's move over here just a little bit and let's talk about this switch right here. Now, many of our motorhomes now come with residential refrigerators. If you have a residential refrigerator in your motorhome, we make sure that you have some backup power so your batteries don't go dead and you don't have to worry about your food spoiling inside your refrigerator. We're going to talk about the auto gen start in conjunction with what's underneath it, which is your inverter. So you have a residential refrigerator, you have an inverter, now you have auto gen start. Why do we do that? We do that because if your batteries get low, or if you're out for the day and all of a sudden it gets really hot in the coach and you want to cool it down, because we know many people travel with pets, you can have your generator automatically turn on, bring the electricity on, turn the air conditioning on. It can also charge up the batteries. There's a number of things that it can do that's really a convenience feature. And there's really 2 things that you can do. The switch only has 2 options. You can enable it, which if you enable it, it goes with the program settings, which are actually on a different control panel that we'll talk about here in a second. The second thing that you can do just to test the system is simply push the button down until it says test. When you push that button down, if everything is working correctly, this light will actually light up and go green. Once it goes green, give it a few seconds, and all of a sudden the generator will try to start on its own. The generator will start, it'll run for about 5 minutes. Once it runs for about 5 minutes in test mode, it will automatically shut back down. It's just a nice check that you can do to make sure that the system is operating optimally. As we talked about what some of the settings are, I can set what time I want the generator to turn on and off if I have a quiet time at my campground. I can set it to find out whether the voltage goes low enough. If I want to set it so at 11.5 volts it kicks on, charges my batteries up, then I can set it there. I can also use it in conjunction with my thermostat for my air conditioner, which allows me to set the temperature. So if I want it to be 75 degrees in my motorhome when I get home, or if Fluffy's riding in the motorhome or in the motorhome by herself all day, you can make sure that she's not going to get too hot, or it's not going to be too hot when you get back to the coach. You can also set the generator to run for a predetermined amount of time. You can have it anywhere from 2 hours up to, I believe, 6 hours, but please check the settings to be for sure. We'll show you here in a second exactly what that control panel looks like. We recommend that you don't actually change the settings unless it's absolutely necessary, because they're preset here at the factory and we're pretty sure that they're going to hit most people's likes. Lastly, we have our inverter. Now, you may have a 1000 watt inverter or you may have a 1800 watt inverter. It depends on your model. But the control panel is exactly the same. It's from Xantrex. You can see there's a green power button and there's a select button underneath it. We simply push the green button, that turns the system on. When it turns the system on, it's going to tell me right here, the top light comes on, it says input voltage. That tells me how many volts I currently have in my battery bank. So as you can see right now, I've got somewhere around 11.7 volts. If I push and depress the select button again, it'll actually tell me how many current amps I have. So as you can see here, I have approximately 14 amps. Lastly, if I depress the button again, you can see what my output power is. Actually, what my coach is requiring out of my batteries. So as you can see right now, it's only requiring 0.15 amps, and that's most likely because I have the ceiling lights engaged. From there, I can look at any of these, see exactly what my voltage is in and out, and for my inverter. Now for those of you thinking about, okay, what is an inverter? An inverter actually takes my battery power, converts it from DC to AC. So now I can run my residential refrigerator. I also have some plugs inside of my motorhome, most likely up in the front passenger side cockpit area and in other entertainment outlets throughout the coach, which will allow me to watch 110 volt TVs or plug in 110 volts for my laptop computer. Anything there that we want 12 volt power converted to 110, that's what my inverter will do. So it'll keep you running down the road simply on battery power.